I said at the beginning of Game 1, and then Game 1 happened. But I'm really hoping that maybe here on blue side, they'll have an answer.
So Annie going to be banned here from T1. Still see the Elise taken away now. KT also taking away Zeus' Jace. And the Elise in could have been a pick that we would have seen KT find more success with into the Elise early. That was one of the only picks that was left available, but doesn't really suit what their composition is trying to do later. And I think that's why they stuck with the Wukong for the engage opportunities that Cuz would have had there and some of the defensive steps they can have against, you know, Cassante and R. But you just didn't have the agency at all. As we'll see a Thresh ban here. So eliminating some of these really strong T1 composition. The reason why you see this instead of an Aphelios or the Jinx is it just takes away those Jinx comps, the Aphelios comps, it takes away the Ahri that we've seen T1 have so much success with when they have the Thresh to be looking for aggressive dives with. So I actually really like the Thresh ban here. It's worth so much for so many different things that T1 is good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Taliyah going to be taken off the board, so we've seen, you know, even in the first series with Live Sandbox, a lot of Taliyah bans, a lot of Veigar bans from the blue side, but they even sneak in one here, which means that Varus gets through, and KT immediately slam that pick down.
Notice that T1 did not ban the Caitlyn, did not ban the Draven, not ban the Varus. Aiming has not been very strong in terms of playing around bot side prio. Like, he has gotten it. He's number 2 in terms of duo kills here with aiming, or with Lehens rather, in the bottom lane. But it hasn't been a strong point for KT to actually play Varus, you know, into these matchups, or Lucian or the Draven and get ahead. The Ezreal Karma, that's a different story. Well, we won't be seeing that today, as this means the Vi will go over to T1 here with this Ashe, and there's a plethora of picks that T1 can play with the Ashe here in this bottom 2v2. Could be AD carry, could be support, a lot not shown yet here for T1.
KT do need to show a bit of their hands here. Will they be playing Varus Karma, Varus Heimer? Like, what is their bottom lane going to look like? What do they select for the jungle matchup here with the Elise and Sejuani already banned? Might just see, you know, straight up Wukong. Yeah, which it looks like that is going to be the case. This should be a much more comfortable situation for Cuz on Wukong compared to Cuz versus Elise in the first game.
You have blue side, and you're going to have some amount of control here in the bottom lane. I really hope we don't see the Heimerdinger, because I think that in order for Heimerdinger to find value outside of the laning phase, so I like this too. The Blitzcrank, the Leona, all sorts of engaged champions I like here for Lehens. What Heimerdinger is not going to do for you in this draft is be able to set up on objectives that where T1 already has map control, right? And the Leona can actually engage, and when T1 get control of a Dragon or a Baron, for example, now Lehens has some opportunity to actually set up fights. I think we probably will see on-hit Varus in this particular scenario, which I think does also suit Aiming's playstyle. And we'll see a Zeri Ashe. We have seen this before. Be very strong here at setting up for team fights, and it's really difficult to get a huge advantage into this lane now for KT.
It definitely is, unless they overextend, or if, you know, Lehens really finds the big angle relatively early on. As let's see where we do go from here. Sandra coming in, so maybe some LeBlanc play or Ashe play.
I think it's 100% Ahri is the first thought. And then you're like, all right, so now if you ban Ahri and LeBlanc, then we have a lot more power in our solo lanes. If you're banning both of those, and T1 are just threatening. They could basically trade one ban for 2 like this because they have the Vi pick. And when you consider how much follow-up there is for an Ashe Arrow with Vi, Ahri, it's crazy. So that's definitely got to be banned. Now they can take away the Kennen here. And it may be just a Cassante angle here for T1 on the top side of the map. And you know, if you ban the LeBlanc here, it feels strong in isolation. But it means that T1 have their pick of the litter here in terms of the top side of the map where they have pick prio. T1 just kind of winning again in terms of using red side better than KT did in the previous draft. Renekton.
So maybe they do just play the LeBlanc.
I wouldn't be surprised. It is going to be blind here, but the Lissandra is gone. And it's on-hit Varus with the Leona. So your pick potential here is quite high. They'll wait and save it. It'll be the Gnar to come through, not the Cassante.
Yeah. I guess he's comfortable to play in a Cassante as Zeus is Gnar. And we'll just wait and see what BDD is going to pick here first. Twisted play okay.
He is all 3 of those wins that you see there. He is the only player who's played it, and he has not lost a game of it yet. Jax will come through here for Gain, an old favorite, but a tough matchup into the Gnar. We'll need a lot of assistance. That's where the Twisted Fate comes through. I mean, it's KT this time. We're trying to settle things.
I think it's happening.
I think it's happening, too. I actually thought about this going into today. I was like, today's the day Faker plays Fizz, isn't it?
That's not Fizz. Kassadin?
That's not Fizz also. All right, so now T1 are going to draw an Ahri ban, right? Get a Renekton ban, and then we'll actually swap their draft's identity into Vi is just going to play a little bit of keep away, a little bit of defensive setups here for the lanes. We have the Gnar, where you have the spacing where you could play it well against the Jax, as we've seen Zeus do in the past. Such an exciting matchup between the LCK's best Jax player and the LCK's best Gnar player once again here in the top lane. But they just changed the identity. Like, no, we're just scaling now. We're just playing defensively, and Twisted Fate can help get you advantages. And KT now have to play around, constantly roaming Leona around, constantly setting up kills. And the identity of these two teams has changed completely. Now KT has to be the one who gets the advantage. Now KT has to snowball, because you're going to be dealing with this scaling Kassadin as a Twisted Fate. You will never match that damage. And locking down a Kassadin as well with Twisted Fate is very difficult. And it's going to be a hard game here for KT Rolster.
Well, they do have insane amounts of picks, so if you can get that snowball rolling, like you were talking about, if you can begin to get ahead of T1 in the early game, you can set up so many plays with your TF, with your Leona, with your Varus, right? And you will need to, as you were mentioning. So I'm very curious to see if they can do it. I think this will be the next great test for KT, because if they put on a good showing here, that really puts a wrench into the gears of this entire best of 5, I'd say.
Yeah. There is a small chance with this draft here and this setup that it's actually going to be Lethality Varus. Now that we see the Twisted Fate and the Jax coming through, we'll see what Aiming wants to play. I think that's probably the better call now that the draft is fully unlocked. But this is going to be really tough to play. You have to play T1's game better than they do to get ahead enough to win this game.
We'll see if they can pull it off here as game number 2 is loaded up. Let's hop onto the Rifts.
Intense Valdez this draft here. Aiming going Comet. That's probably all we need to know. And BDD on this Twisted Fate, it's just one of those picks you want to get excited about. You want to feel like, okay, this is one of his best champions. There is a lot of lockdown in this composition to try to kill the Zeri. And because of the Ashe pick, you know, normally it looked like, and it very much did seem like T1 was going to play this as a pick comp initially. Now that the Kassadin's come through, you're like, okay, well, no longer as much utility for this Ashe. KT's draft is looking to kill this Zeri or the Kassadin, if you get the opportunity to. And the Ashe is going to offer you very little in terms of peel. A lot here at level 1, however.
Well, this is not the way you want to start it off level 1. Especially with your melee support that is also getting chunked out. So just coming into the brush, trying to get some posturing here in the bottom lane, and immediately Aiming and Lehens will have to start on the back foot.
Yeah, this is really painful. Now, at least they do have some consumables to chug through here, and we'll be able to maintain some level of health here, but it's going to be really painful. And once level 2 comes out here, they can start to hold their own a little bit, and Aiming will be able to poke away and hit some of these comets, but they're going to get zoned out
of XP.
Yeah, so it's going to be a while before they hit that level 2. So you're alluding to?
Yeah. This is pretty rough. I mean, you really wanted to get started on the front foot. It is going to be difficult against the Ashe. A lot of teams have just been dropping the Ashe entirely, but Keria and T1 are not really abiding by that, right? Because you can see what happens if you play it out really well at level 1, especially with Halo Blades. You're just Ashe. You're going to slow them down. You can kite them down. Leona level 1 is not very good, right? Well, like, what do? You just stand there.
Well, that's what I was going to say is if you have level 1 and you go for the stun first, then you can't get in range to stun. If you go for Zenith Blade, you go in and you die if you are losing that much health at level 1, which they did. So Lehens doesn't actually have the health to Zenith Blade in, even if he had it, right, to come over there and try to make something happen. Double cleanse in this lane as well. So you just die, actually, if you go in as Lehens, so you just kind of have to sit back. They have lose lane, a plate.
0 CS. And yes, there's a big wave in here, but they just got back to lane after having to back at level 1.
And Keria just knows these matchups so well. He's like, all right, well, as long as we win the trade at level 1 with Halo Blades, which we do have, that's what you take as Ashe, there's nothing that the Leona can do, and we're going to continue to put that pressure on. Now some CS will finally come through as a fourth, excuse me, of the cull is completed here from Guma already. And he's going to take an early back timing here and have the level 3 advantage. This is... I mean, disastrous is putting it lightly for KT. And yeah, a good start for T1.
Yeah. Cuz going to get started up here, and that's fine. Owner looks like he just went for a full clear of his own jungle, so you might have to forego some of the Scuttle Crab pressure. He's not going to win on the top side, even though he is up level, just because his Kassadin is mid, right? And he's not going to be able to match the TF, so all pretty basic stuff. So Owner just has to give that away. He's fine. He farmed his whole jungle. Looks like he was expecting that anyway. Does have red buff, looking to maybe play towards the top side of the map as he does go on to Vision. Flash on in, as with the red buff, really trying to make this work, but Owner just kind of using his flash to pressure Keen, but doesn't get much out of it.
Cuz here does not have red, but they wanted to bait this super hard, and they are successful at getting Zeus into a vulnerable spot, but because Owner is still here, I don't think they can actually make anything of this. This is going to keep Keen safe here under this turret, and if Zeus really wants to push the issue, there's...
Yeah.
You want to think there's an angle, but pre-6 without red buff, there's really not.
And Jace is playing this as if Owner is still here, right? He's like, okay, I'm under your turret. I am harassing you. And even though he sees, cuz he's like, I'm not scared because I'm going to play aggressively and show them that I have my jungler here. Now, Owner wasn't there for like the last 10 seconds of that whole bit, but it just shows you what you can do with lack of information for your opponent.
Exactly. Just the threat there means that respect has to be shown. So Owner's flash is on cooldown now. This is significant, especially pre-6 for him. And this lane is a wash for now. Can be relevant later on for KT if they are able to win some early team fights, but that is going to depend wholly on BDD now and where his Destiny gates go, because he cannot just sit back and farm. You know, we've talked about some of BDD's games where he knows exactly the timing in which he wants to go in, and there are other win conditions. For example, that series against Genji, where KT won, and he was able to shut down Chobi's Akali. Did not Destiny gate at all in the early game. This is not that type of comp. He will have to get some advantages early. Otherwise, T1 will naturally scale with this Kassadin Zeri. The Zeri that's halfway through now, this cull early.
Okay, they're looking for a play down on the bottom side. Keria just going to respect Flash. I mean, they even had Vision in the entire river, but they say, well, we don't really have it in all of the lane brushes, so I'm just going to flash away.
Yeah.
Not going to mess with it.
Feels like a huge win here for KT, considering cleanse is available here for Keria, and he probably would have been able to cleanse and get his way out of anything, considering that vision, but Keria's just not going to take any risks this game, and will flash respectfully. Although from what we could tell, definitely didn't need to, and Cuz just trying to get some additional information here. Clearing vision with all the prio here is just not even realistic for KT. You won't be able to get in there and take that control ward away. You won't be able to get some guaranteed vision on Drake, so someone is going to go over even with the Twisted Fate here. As you can see, a slight lead for BDD in mid. But it won't mean anything if he can't use it to get the more relevant parts of this draft online.
So we're going to have that first Drake picked up here by T1. It's a Hextech Drake. The second one is Infernal as well, so some of that early game prio on the bottom side with some of those early Drakes might actually end up being pretty lucky here for the side of T1 if they can get that second one, but wouldn't be surprised to see KT try to make a move on the second one, right? With all this pick, you've got to do something, you've got to make some plays somewhere, maybe try to get a pick on the bottom side and look for follow-up objectives from there. Lehen's still level 3, Takaria's level 5, so what happened in the early game, we have not forgotten, but we'll see what they can get done.
He's also spent a lot of time out of lane trying to clear some of these wards, trying to make an impact elsewhere, but it's mostly just the
Destiny up to the top side, and that is going to be the stun, but Zeus just flashes away. The Gnar away of the Jax means that the follow-up pressure after the gold card was not there.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a trade of flashes. If you were able to get the Nars flash and Keen still has his, you now have pressure on the top side, but instead it's just going to be a reset here, and Zeus is not going to be afraid of anything unless he makes a misplay or walks into a counter-strike. But he's got op and he has the range advantage, and this is what Zeus is just so famous for with this Nars, is spacing, and we'll be able to get it back off here. He has teleport advantage.
Okay, here we go. Over the wall, level 6 against Lehen's level 4. Even with the Eclipse up, he has taken so much damage. And they just use that again for tempo. Remember the culling in game number 1, that kind of makes sense with Lucian, but not every day you see the Zeri's really get in the face of Leona and put on that much pressure.
Showing a lot of respect to the fact that Lehen's has flash too, because he wants to maybe flash engage here if they're in turret range, but now they have another wave and there's no aggro on the turret. Lehen just wants to scare them away.
And double cleanse, like you mentioned before, so it's so difficult.
They're just playing it so perfectly. It's it's sad if you're a KT fan, you're just watching this, you're like, it feels so hopeless.
That has been the MO of T1, to try to just essentially just suffocate their opponents from minute 1 and make it feel helpless and kind of win that mental game. As now we are going to have T1 starting up this Rift Herald. Remember, they got the early Hextech Drake as well, so they're going to take both objectives early with a Cassid in mid.
Plus the fact that they know the Destiny Gate is on cooldown, so there's just no angle here. You have the Wukong ult and you have to try to use it, but he's zoned.
Okay, so they're going to get it. They try to collapse in here. Nice try to get the Jax away, but T1 are on the run. As now maybe the pick's coming in. A arrow from bottom lane, but that doesn't really matter. First blood given over to Keen. On the top side, Zay's super low. As Cuz trying to follow up here. Faker wants to be the hero. We'll see if he can do it. Maybe not expecting him. His Counter-Strike is used onto him just to zone him away. And down will go Zeus. So a couple of kills finally into the pockets of KT.
Yeah, and this is pretty huge for the Jax picking up one. Stopping the Herald would have been nice, but T1 are going to be able to pick up the eye regardless here. And you have the engage with Cyclone and Counter-Strike, and that's what KT were banking on here. And unfortunately, the initial setup there with the Twist of Fate was great.
Here we go, getting in on Tecaria. The cleanse is late, as down he will go at the end of it, just waiting for the stun. And he did not have flash, so trade of kills.
Yeah, but it's a better trade for T1. The enemy AD carry goes down, and Guma is going to be able to pick up the kill here and go back. He has not completed his call, so could be better here. But look at how well T1 is set up on this objective, even with one of these sick combos, right? Zeus blocks the initial engage here from Cuz. Counter-Strike's still good, though, and if that Counter-Strike doesn't hit like this fight doesn't go off the same way. Follow-up with the Cyclone is good. Owner is taken out. Zeus is chased down here. Faker tries to help out, but unfortunately it's just too little too late. There's no flash on this Gnar, so he's going to go down no matter what. And, you know, there on the bottom side, finally Lehens decides, now I'm going to make my move. This is exactly what I was talking about before. They were being so respectful of this flash engage range. Finally, he gets it off because the cleanse is late. But ultimately, Guma still trades a kill. So, in one tiny mistake is, arrow.
Okay, cleanse from aiming. Still going to be a good trade for T1 just because the Ash Arrow, it did get nerfed, so it is going to take longer, but it's going to be up before that cleanses. So, either way, nice pressure there. They also get a nice chunk onto KT aiming. As you can see, Lehens, he's starting to get more and more frisky. He's like, I'm not scared of you anymore. Gonna force that Zeri over the wall.
Yeah, BDD also trying to put some pressure on here with Cuz. Cuz doesn't have flash, of course, because of that last fight, and this is really risky.
Keen is about 15 seconds from his flash. Just not gonna go for it here. Gnar into the wall, but Keen doesn't really care. He got that early kill, and now he is in charge of this top lane.
Yeah, he's a level up, and he has his cooldown boots, plus the fact that Zeus doesn't have his flash still for a little bit longer here, so he actually has some kill pressure, in fact, when Owner is not there. And Owner did back, so now KT getting a little bit of map control. Like it's very slight, and the Destiny Gate is available, so you always have to consider that you're fighting a man down here, even if your jungler is there. Rod of Ages complete here for BDD. Pretty early, you know, about the time you'd like to have it. The spacing from Zeus, man.
Yeah, it's rough. Even with this kill, you know, he does have the pressure, but he still doesn't have that first item, so it's not like a massive amount. Still having a nice lead, but not able to punish Zeus, really. As KT, like I mentioned, I think they're going to make a play for this second Drake, this Infernal, and that they are.
Yeah, I mean, T1 want to contest still. Keen just TP'd top. Ooh.
Well, let's see how this goes. Faker's in the pit. That's an arrow on the BDD. The Cyclone is massive, though, and the damage is in there. Double Cyclone onto everybody in the pit. The damage here from Guma is pretty good. He's going to pick up a double as we have a little Zeri moment beginning to form. Aiming not able to run away. That's another kill for the Zeri. That's 3, and it might just be 4 at the end of it. A quadra kill for Guma, who has 5 kills now.
He has 5 kills and a completed cull, 4 plates of gold, and he's got a whole minute to get the final plate. So 2 back-to-back full plate turrets to Guma, this time with 5 kills. I think we can certify it, Valdez. I think we can say it. Stamped. And this game is now off the rails here for KT, no longer able to take these skirmishes. And it looked risky, it looked greedy for T1 to try to force this fight because you're fighting into Wukong ult, but there's no Jax. And that's really the X factor here. Without the Jax and without really your support, your Lehens is not actually able to make a huge impact in this fight either. He has level 6, but he's just being zoned out. Arrow comes through here first, and then when the collapse comes through, the Cyclone is massive, but the damage just isn't really here.
Guma's untouched the entire time.
Guma takes no damage, and aiming is a lethality Varus, who's very far behind. It doesn't have lethal tempo, is not going to be able to match an AD carry this early in the game.
A little kill on the top side, maybe. Nicely done from Keen. He's like, I'm going to take this into my own hands, okay? My team's not getting it done on the bottom side. You see Zeus not very happy about that kill on the cam, so nice little breath of fresh air. And yeah, on that fight, it was funny. You and I were casting T1 Challengers on Tuesday. I don't know if you remember. It was a very similar fight with, you know, Zeri versus Lethality Varus, just not able to do much in that extended trade. Either way, in this game, we do have Faker in a little bit of trouble here, getting chased down by the Jax.
It's a twisted fade angle, and now Keen is starting to get fed. And we have seen Keen do crazy things with Jax in team fights, his flank angles, and T1, they're ahead in this game pretty significantly, but it's not oppressive map control, it's not oppressive vision like it often is for T1. They have a huge lead on an AD carry, right? And that's an early Zeri that's very accelerated, is going to have her second item very soon. But if she dies at the beginning of fights, that won't necessarily matter the lead that she has, and there's so much lockdown in this draft. As we'll watch Keen in this exchange. That was oh, that was the post, I guess, of the kill.
Yeah, he was just saying, I'm going to take the top turret.
Yeah.
So I think we were like in between replays there. Either way, as maybe now we'll get another look, as here it is.
Yeah, Isaiah's greeting for a plate, gets him on the edge of the Counter-Strike, even with the crush. It's the empowered hit here, and Twisted Fate coming up. BDD is ready to follow up Collapse. And this means there's just no way to counter this. They also missed the Ashe arrow. Because now KT are looking for second Herald here.
Yeah. And
Faker's free farming, you know, so this is not going to be something that goes over without a cross map.
Of course. As down goes the objective, they get the Rift Heralds. And there is a way, you know, with Fed Jax, you got a Wukong, you have a million ways to pick the Zeri. Maybe KT can find ways in these fights here. I'm beginning to believe in the chances of KT in this game, as Cuz is going to be spotted over the ward, or over the wall by a ward.
Yeah, they really want this mid turret, and they have a Vi here to support it. Zoner just going to make sure they can grab that. Will be a turret going over to T1, their second of the game. Runens is done for Guma. It's been done for a little while, at like 16 minutes. So this is insane team fighting power for the Zeri. But like you said, if you can kill the Zeri, if the gold card comes through, King gets a Counter-Strike off, you only have one cleanse. And you're going to have to use it well. There are so many threats. If the Gnar was ahead, and you had a Vi who's got map control, I feel like this looks way better for T1. Still very winnable in terms of how these fights can play out. It's going to be execution-based. But what looked very doomed has now looked like the Keen stripe is showing right on the top side of the map, where you're like, okay, this is a win condition. This is a winnable game.
It absolutely is. I mean, we saw it even on the Dragon fight. Like, yes, T1 did win that because the Zeri just survived and got so many kills, but the amount of CC and pressure that you have, if they get it into the backline instead of focusing it all onto Owner and Faker like they did in the Dragon fight, if they're on to Guma and Keria, if they're on to Faker, you know, later on in the game, I think they're going to have so much value in these team fights.
Yeah, I actually like the Lich Bane second here for BDD in this game too. Often see rapid fire cannon in games like this where you're just trying to get that gold card super early.
Maybe it's Cosmic Drop.
It could be.
The big buffed item. I don't think it is.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Codex is out, so. Yeah. But it could have been. As this is going to be a Drake fight here. It's Ocean Soul, but KT have this choke point control. It's very difficult for Zeri to actually get into position. And because Flash ult available, so respect has to be shown. They've got the Narbar.
Lens has to go in, he gets slowed up, and he gets bursted down, and down goes the Leona, but they traded for the Gnar, and down goes the Vi as well. Where did their front line go? And Guma's like, I just want a front line to do some damage. He's not going to have one. As here comes KT, they're going to find Guma and get the massive shutdown of gold into the Jack.
I mean, that fight was so perfectly played from KT. They know Zeus is at 90% of his Narbar, and he wants to engage and be the front line for Guma. They instantly engage on top of him, kill the Gnar before Zeus could do anything. The follow-up damage is real. And now an inner turret looking like it may go down here. KT, get that mid turret. They're going to get Drake. And so much money, 900 gold onto this Jax for Keen. And we have got to watch this fight again because look at the Narbar of Zeus here. He is ready. Lehens goes in, turns perfectly center plate, follow up. Every single person. Yeah, every single person focuses down Zeus. Cuz is here, ready for the follow-up as well. And Faker knocked up here, wants to actually escape, but there's a Destiny Gate on the chase. Guma has no agency, has no room in this fight, and we talked about just this. Doesn't matter how much money you have, how much gold you have, and how many items you have. If you can't actually fight, if you don't have a front line.
Lehens feeling himself. He was pretty happy about the play. And it was quite nice, I have to say. You know, they selected their target. Everybody on the side of KT focuses down the Gnar, who has played the steel caps, and yes, maybe he's got unflinching, whatever. Like, they're able to just burn through that because they have insane amounts of CC. We're back on this, you know, this is the chain CC meta, and KT drafted a whole lot of it here. So regardless of who's fed, you can just burst one person down, you will have enough damage, especially at this part in the game, you know? Like, taking that big fight at this part in the game for T1, I don't think that was a great idea. Like, yes, your Zeri is very fed, but it's one singular Ocean Soul. When KT are really strong right now, like, why not just wait for your Kassadin to hit level 16, your Zeri to get a third item?
And the one thing that I'll say that I feel like is the reason why T1 were so tempted to take that fight is if you win this fight, you probably win the game. You end up getting so far ahead, you get that tempo lead, and you had an R-bar set. Like, Zeus' positioning there, while he was caught from an amazing Zenith Blade there from Lehens, his positioning was set up to actually carry the entire fight. And it was like him in that moment versus Lehens in the Blade. Does the Narbar finish? Does he actually get the engage into the wall here? Or does he get caught and get chain CC to death? And I agree that the risk was quite high for T1, but they have a fed Zeri, and they're like, okay, we smash this fight, we win the game, it's done. And in fact, KT are like, no, we win this. Now the Spear of Sojin done so early here for Keen, and he is ready to teamfight on this Jax.
And Owner has to flash now. It's just not looking great for them. And, you know, what you just mentioned, Wolf, is that T1, a lot of times, they're like, we can just take this fight. We're the better team. We can just win. You know, that overconfidence, that cockiness, it's not the first time it has bit them in the butt in the past. And maybe it might just get them here as Keria is caught out. BDD is now on the map. Down will go Keria for free.
And we talked about this, like, because this Ashe was picked so early and T1 aren't playing a pick comp, the Ashe is actually vulnerable on the map. A very squishy support can't really offer anything for Guma. It's really Owner and Zeus who have to be the front line for this carry. And we're doing a Baron early, 21-30 here with that pick on the Ashe. They have map control, and they've got such great turn. TP from Owner, or rather from Zeus.
He does have an R-bar this time, so there is potential, but the rest of the team not really able to get in here just yet.
Owner has no flash, and they have no vision on this.
Mini Gnar now. KT just, oh, they're going to keep Elise, and they immediately go straight to Keen as Faker takes it down. Gonna get the Baron, and now they're going to buy a lot of time for themselves.
This is a T1 move, man. You've got double smite. Faker's got unsealed spellbook. You go in for the double smite play, and KT, they had vision control, but when T1 came in, the collapse, the engage was a little bit slow, and T1 will actually steal this away. As this is what we were talking about with the Ashe, you know, you're trying to come up here and shadow for Faker so that if there is an engage, you can arrow them and then you can have the escape. But unfortunately, there's not much Faker can offer here at level 13 to save this Ashe who is caught. As Faker has Smite, as you guys could see.
They don't have vision over the wall.
They have no vision over the wall. And it's a double Smite here. Faker secures the Drake before Cuz can do anything about it. They just call it out. This is exactly what T1 does. They go 3, 2, 1. Out, out, out.
나이스.
Good job.
이거 크다.
That was
Huge.
big.
Yeah, it's huge, he says. And I mean, that is a huge window back into the game. It's going to buy a ton of time for T1 here on the map for these scaling carries to come online. I mean, Zeri is online, but the Kassadin needs more time. And the Gnar needs more time.
At least they have bought some time here as Faker just going to flash away. Keria still shadowing up on the top side. Now he's got Owner as here comes an arrow. He's going to hit aiming.
Gets a Ghost Blade too.
Cleanses it, yeah.
Not going to be too significant here, but getting some additional information.
It's a lot more difficult to get value out of those arrows if you're not set up in position with vision to actually, you know, follow up on those. I think he was maybe just trying to stop actually the back. Like, I think someone was backing in mid, but
yeah, and
either way.
He can also check during that path, like, is anyone coming down to shadow the Jax who's side laning there? Can we maybe look for a pick there?
Uh-oh, Guma in a little bit of trouble as he does have cleanse.
That was so sick from Guma, the way he played that, wall riding the exact part there on the river partition. To get away there, has the cleanse.
So now he doesn't have cleanse for this fight.
Yeah.
So shouldn't have been there in mid by himself, I think.
And
Did play it well from there, at least, I guess.
The Drake here, I think, is definitely one you give as T1, because as the last fight showed us, you're not really ready to actually push through when you don't have vision control. And it's better to try to get Faker level 16, which he will get in just a moment here because his rod is about to complete. He just got level 15 off of that wave. So you're ready for the next fight. This is just Soul Point. And you know, the arena is so wild right now because you have this like huge T1 fan base here in Lowell Park, but you have this group of KT fans who are super hyped as well. But they're like, let's not get too excited, right? Let's not actually really trust just yet. Like every single objective goes over, they're like, yeah, but Faker is getting 16. You know, hold on. Like this is good for us, but will we actually secure the game? I believe they can do it. I think KT are set up to win this game, but it is going to be about execution. There's the 16. On this cast, and so we have ticked the clock over. And man, it's all about the setup on these team fights for KT. And if Keen can get a flank, because there's not a lot of deep vision here for T1, every time he has teleport, it's so scary. You just don't know where the Jax is coming from. Speaking of,
Faker waiting in the brush. He is 16, so even if they did something, probably will be able to just hop the wall. Has the unsealed spellbook. Wonder if he would consider moving over to a cleanse if we do get into an actual team fight and he's not in the side lane.
Exhaust still pretty valuable here. He has now...
Maybe he doesn't have cleanse anymore.
Yeah, he's
not sure.
Cooldown. But he has exhaust now, which is going to be useful against the Wukong, obviously. Yeah. And that's just an additional peel tool for Guma.
They're just... they're just like gank brushing here on the right side of this inner turret, RT1. As KT, you know, they do have the ability to collapse extremely fast with, you know, teleport on Keen. You've got, obviously, Destiny Gate, but
if KT...
for a little angle.
Yeah, and if KT had gotten that Baron, this map would look totally different. There would be deep vision around the top side of the map. There would be some turrets missing here on the map. Might even have been an inhibitor. I'm not going to say that happens 100% of the time if you get Baron, but you get a lot of extra money. You have a lot of map control. And because T1 bought that extra time, they can do stuff like this where they're grouping up in brushes and hoping for mistakes out of KT. Because just one or two times you make an error like what T1 was hoping for there, then T1 gets an inner, they get additional gold, they get additional map control. And right now you can see there's no real wards, minus the one that's under that inner and mid, that are deep on the map here for T1, for Zeus to teleport to, for Faker to look for an angle on. And so Keen is still ruling the Rift right now. He is a big side lane threat that Zeus alone can't match, so more people have to come over, and it's never a 1v1. And even if it's a 2v1 you think is T1, that's when BDD shows up. He's playing Twisted Fate, and that's the power of Twisted Fate plus a strong side laning champion like this Jax.
Yeah, you see that Zeus can't step up to him. He's down a level, down a lot of gold, so he just has to catch waves inside. No pressure for Zeus.
16 for BDD now. And this Jax does have his Zonias. It is very deep where he can go and look for forcing these fights. He can teleport into almost any location. Look at the deep wards they have here behind the Baron Pit for him to teleport to. T1 needs to clear all of that, but also needs to somehow find a path for Zeus, who's a level and a half down now, to get into this team fight with Narbar, or Narbar, or KT just get the Baron this time around.
T1 trying to clear out some of the vision here that you were mentioning, but KT immediately moving into position to restake their claim.
The 1-3-1 power is real. I mean, this is exactly where you want to be.
Zeus, he's trying to do blue buff. He's going to get punished for that as, yeah, he doesn't have much place to go. Has to flash. As Keen now will have a flash advantage in 2 levels.
Yeah, and they should just be able to run to Baron here and hold this choke. And Keen, like you said, he doesn't flash there. He has level 16, and KT in perfect position to continue to 1-3-1 this while threatening Baron. Zeus loses flash, loses his Narbar, so he's not coming in anytime soon. Actually not going to hard commit to this, though. Just going to put the Twisted Fate in the top lane, continue to get advantages. I feel like KT a little bit nervous here to start a Baron. They are very low damage with this Lethality Varus and the Twisted Fate, so the speed at which they could do the Baron is not great, but their turn with the Zhonya's Jax and the Twisted Fate is amazing if they start it.
Depends on if they have Jax there, right? If Jax is there, I think they have a lot of damage, but as you were mentioning, he's probably going to be pushing aside and looking for teleport angles, so...
And he doesn't get the turret, critically, so they get the flash of the Zeus, but that turret still stands.
Yeah, and eventually, Faker's going to be level 18, he's going to have 4 items. Guma's going to be level 18, he's going to have 4 items, and in a late game scenario, like, yeah, there's a ton of CC on the side of KT, but you're giving T1 a lot of time.
Yeah, you really are.
Continue scaling to continue getting big items for your carries.
Zeus trying to set up for that Narbar engage. This time Faker has a cross angle. Keen hoping to be the one who engages with them.
All right, Faker. Okay, they're not going to go for this. They don't know what's on the other side there as vision was being cleared out.
They gave T1 prio on this Dragon, though, and now Zeus is just holding that Narbar exactly where he wants it. They've got good turn here, too. Just need that front line.
I was waiting for this. Meganar is going to be started as here he goes. Looking for this angle, and he's stolen away because takes the Ocean Drake, takes the Ocean Soul. As they're trying to turn here onto the Jax, they want 100-0 him, but the Solar Eclipse is massive from the Leona. They're going really deep as Keen is just frontlining into the Zeri. Is not going to get Guma, though. Crucially, Guma's still alive. Did they go too deep is the question. As now the Zeri's going insane, but it's not enough. Faker has to do it alone, and can he? Yes, he will. With Zeus and Carrier left alive, T1 take the win.
12,000 damage between Faker and Guma. 2 players did 12,000 damage in that fight. Yeah, Keen's got his Zhonya's, and he's up in the thick of things, but they can't kill the Zeri fast enough, and they cannot kill the Kassadin at all. You got the Cloud Soul here as KT, but it isn't going to be as significant right now as what T1 is going to get with this Baron. The gold injection here for the side of T1 for this Kassadin is massive, as it's a long con flank attempt here from BDD. Zeus is carded here. They get the Drake, but they do not secure any CC onto Guma. Stopwatch is used here, or the Zhonya's rather, but notice that Guma is not CC'd until the very last moment here where he just cleanses and kites back.
He's doing so much damage as they're all stunned right in front of him.
And Faker is just unkillable in this fight. Once the Jax is gone, and the lethality aspect of this Varus is done, after his Qs have gone off and he actually can't do anything damage-wise in the fight, like, you have no damage anymore. So then Guma's just walking in with Faker in the front line because they have no fear, they don't care at all. Just not enough damage, unfortunately, for KT. But in moments like this, you kind of do wish, I think, as aiming, that maybe you went for the on-hit variant of this Varus. Because, yeah, you can chip away, you can poke, but when your comp is so reliant on hard engage, if you don't get the kill with that burst, if you don't lock down the Zeri, you're never going to compete, not even close, even if you did have even items, which you don't. And now she's got a QSS, so she bought another cleanse.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, actually, as, oh boy, BDD caught in his own jungle now. You can see kind of how the tides have turned. I was saying they're giving T1 a lot of free time, it feels like. KT, they had so much pressure in this mid-game to, like, look for picks, cut off vision, try to really get this game snowballing. But I think they failed to do that, and they kind of took a lackluster fight there, giving Zeri so much damage in the own jungle of T1.
Yeah.
And now it's, I mean, it's anyone's game from here. I think KT could still win it if they get the good pick, but the Zeri and the Kassadin are gigantic.
But the advantage that they had is now gone, and they still need to take a fight where they start the objective and then turn. And it was better before. They didn't do it then. Will they do it now? I mean, they're trying to set up some traps here. But I think you have to actively start these Barons and force T1 to come to you. Otherwise, T1 will just play the poke game with you and be like, yeah, okay, you have a lethality Varus. And that damage is real, which is exactly what KT are trying to do. They're trying to hide in these brushes, chip away at T1 so that when they hard engage, the health bars are already low. They win that fight.
Arrow. Okay, it's going to hit Keen. That's a lot of burst already put into the Jax. Of course, they're not going to commit to that.
He might just have to TP back into this fight. The timing here is so thin for him to do that. He's not going to do it.
See, when I'm running them down, right? They're like, okay, we don't want you to TP. We don't want you to get away. We already got this burst, this little chip advantage, you know?
It's wild that after getting poked away like that is the time that KT decide, okay, we'll do the Baron now, when they had a lot more map control twice in this game and didn't decide to do it. Now T1 are in position to start this Baron off as KT back away. The bottom duo have just returned to base.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you have a Last Whisper now as aiming at some additional damage. But KT rushing to this Baron now. T1 are totally set up. Almost 4 items here for Faker.
Yeah, look at the vision diff now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a massive flank ward there. There's double control wards on the Baron, triple, actually. And yes, KT will be able to take some space now and reclaim some of this vision, but...
BDD, he Destiny Gates bottom here, but he's got a long way to push before he ends up getting to that inner turret, so not a really big amount of threat here. He does swap back to his teleport here on his Unsealed.
They see you. They know this is starting. Yeah. They did not clear out that one ward. And as you mentioned, you know, the damage is there, but it's not huge. They can't just quite burst this down, but they're committing. KT going to commit to this one as over the wall we have double smite again. Can they steal it again? Yes, they can! They take it down. And now KT are just lost. Where do you go from here? As ults are going in, they try to turn onto Meganar as Zeus gets low, but he will survive. And the damage not quite there. Guma's over the wall, goes to the ult. He is going to cleanse early, but he doesn't really care. He's still kiting them out.
There's no damage in KT's cup. They can't kill anybody.
They can't kill anybody. Faker is in the backline. Guma is diving the entire team. As some low health bars, Guma goes down. Faker went a little bit too low, and they turn it around.
Oh, they went way too deep. They went way too deep. And you know what? There's enough damage in this comp where if you just walk into 4 people, you will get killed. And the damage coming through just barely from aiming on this lethality Varus late game here. It ends up working out as Guma just takes too many hits, plus the engage there from Keen. As once again, you mentioned this double smite setup here. Look at that. The health goes from 2,500 to 0 in an instant. No counterplay here as Cuz tries his best. But then they focus onto Zeus, and look at where the carries are. Faker's full health, Guma's full health, but then they chase into a choke point. You've won your prize here.
This
Guma goes for the ult. This is fine, right? But
the
then,
next step was too much.
Yeah, this is fine because you get Lehens, but then going through this choke point with Faker and Guma here all in the same hex into Counter-Strike.
And this arrow.
Sonya's, the arrow's huge. Like, this is a, I would go as far as say this is a miracle team fight win for KT Rolster, but part of it is because KT turn win T1 overextend. The punish play was real.
Yeah.
But now they have no Baron, but they have a lot of map control, and Elder has spawn.
Like you said, you know, if you're all going to go in the same hex against TF, Jax, Varus, you are going to get burst down. And yeah, you're very ahead. You're trying to push forward. You're winning the team fight, but a bridge too far. Either way, we reset here on the Elder.
Keen is going to back here, and he buys Randuin's. He has a TP, and this is the last fight of the game here. This is going to decide it. KT need one more miracle here, one more pick onto these carries.
No double smite here for either team, it looks like.
No cleanse for Guma, but he does have the scimitar ready.
A lot of damage thrown into carry as this is a straight up 5v5 BDD on the backside here, but so is Faker. As we wrap around each other, as the arrow comes in, it's going to find BDD. They're looking for it. Zay's not really going to get the angle himself. Has to hop away. Tons of damage in onto the Elder already. As okay, that's the ultimate. They're trying to get in there, and it's a bit of a flip for KT are winning this fight as Guma trying to front to back, but it's already 5v3. As
Guma carry,
Elder's going to be taken. Elder's going to be taken. KT will turn this one, and Guma will get carded and will get executed. KT should take this, and yes, Faker will be taken out as well. Carry has got nowhere to go. And it looks like
man.
KT have done it.
Look at Lehens, he's clapping his hands. Keen looks relieved as Carrier is going to look for an arrow here. It will not matter. And I didn't think I was necessarily going to say it tonight, Valdez, but we have a series on our hands. KT bringing it back in what was nearly an Elder flip, but T1 lose the fight. King carries.
A scary game, but they get it done, Wolf. They get it done in 37 minutes. Keria, of course, not going to be able to stop them. Down goes the Nexus, and we have a series on our hands. It's all tied at 1. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's all KT had to do. Just prove they could take a game. And now it's anyone's series.
Keen, BDD, Lehens, these players are so good at pick compositions, and they really showcase that power of their playstyle in the second round robin, where we saw KT go on that insane streak where they beat every top team except T1 in round robin 2. And we saw the Hens play champions like Blitzcrank, champions like Leona, champions like Nautilus coming through. And when they are ready to punish these neutral objective fights, and they're all on the same page, this team looks like it could be the best team in the LCK. I mean, legit, they have it when they're in the zone. And in those final few fights, they were. And one overextension from T1, from Guma and Faker there, was I think the losing moment for T1. If they don't actually hard force it, they just take their Baron buff and walk away.
Yeah.
I don't see any way KT comes back. They group up, they have prio for Elder, they win the game. But instead, just a little bit of greed here. It's a T1 game 2. We've seen a few of these this season.
Yep, happens again. Happened twice in this game as well. Happened earlier on where they just overpressed their advantage. They took a fight maybe where they shouldn't have, and they said, we're better than them. We can take them down, right? And the answer is no.
I do wonder what the draft setup is going to be here for KT roster, because I do believe T1 will pick blue side. They will have that advantage once again.
We'll have to see if KT have a response to that early game that we saw in game number 1. But either way, this is all tied up. It's anyone from here. We're going to take a break and have the space.
애들 안쪽으로 들어. 미드 가자. 나 이거 애쉬 슈퍼할게. 미드. 나이스. 오케이, 한 번 이겼다. 나이스. 야, 아야. 걱정 가보자. 재밌다 게임. 미치겠다.